Good evening. Welcome to this meeting of the Joint Transport Board, or in particular the Tunbridge and Morning Joint Transport Board. For the benefit of those watching on YouTube channel, members of the board are present in the chamber, and these members will be voting on proposals this evening. Other members of the council are present either in the chamber or participating online via MS Teams, and can take part in any discussions, ask questions, but cannot vote. Your attention is drawn to agenda item 1, which sets out the guidance on how meetings will be conducted. Before we start with the formal business, we will do a sound check and confirm attendance of voting members by undertaking a roll call. I will now call upon the DSO to undertake the roll call of members in alphabetical order and ask councillors to confirm that they are present in the chamber. This roll call to include borough councillors, county councillors and parish representatives. The other councillors in attendance, either in the chamber or via MS Teams, will be asked to introduce themselves if invited to speak. Note will be taken of which other councillors are present, and their attendance will be entered into the minutes. I will ask any officers in the chamber to confirm their title and presence in the chamber, and I will also ask any county officers who are participating via MS Teams and ask them to confirm their title and what they can see, and confirm that they can see and hear proceedings. So let's start with the DSO undertaking a roll call of members.
Thank you. Councillor Rayner.
Present.
Councillor Coffin.
Present.
Councillor Cannon. Councillor Cope.
Councillor Cannon, I can see as substitute.
Present, thank you.
Apologies been received. Councillor Crisp. Councillor Barton, substitute.
Present.
Councillor Davis.
Present.
Councillor Hoskins.
Present.
Councillor Thornywell.
Present.
Councillor Dean. And Councillor Hola.
County Councillor Hola sends her apologies.
Councillor Hood.
Mm.
Councillor Hudson.
Present.
Councillor Kennedy.
Present.
Steptoe.
Present.
Apologies been received by Sarah Barker, who's participating by MS Teams. Tim Shaw. And apologies been received from Sue Butterfield.
Just to let you know, Victoria, I'm subbing for Rob Cannon tonight.
Thank you.
In that case, then we'll move to Chair will ask officers in the chamber to confirm their title and presence in the chamber. There you go, Chair.
Good evening, Chair. Andy Edwards, Head of Technical Services.
Andy Bracey, Parking Manager.
Victoria Freeman, Democratic Services.
I now ask for county officers who are participating via Teams to confirm your title and confirm also that you can see and hear proceedings. So let's have a look and see who we have on there. So see first, Jamie Watson. You want to go first, please?
Jamie Watson, Senior Programme Manager, can hear and see you. Thank you.
But next along, I have Andy Watson.
Andy Watson, Highway Manager. I can see and hear you. Thank you.
Next along, I've got Stuart Taylor.
Yes, Stuart Taylor, West Kent Highways Project Manager. I can hear and see you.
And next up, I've got Michelle Tatton. In that case, that's you want to test that for. So, are you happy for me to speak, or do you want someone else to speak? So, in that case, Andy Watson, it's your turn to speak. Let's have 2 sentences, please.
Good evening, Chair and Board.
So we're using you as a sound check. Thanks, Andy.
Thank you.
So next along, I've got apologies. I've got, do you want to go through the apologies you have first, dear sir? You've done those. We've done the substitutions, declarations of interest. So do any members, first starting in the chamber, have any declarations of interest to make? In that case, please come forward now, though you can come forward with them in the meeting if you wish. Any declarations? Next along, has everyone read the minutes, item 5, and if so, are they agreeable to my signing them, or any amendments or changes sought?
Agreed.
Yes.
Thank you. I will sign the minutes a little later in the meeting. Thank you. Next along is item 6, and we have, this is an update in connection with the details team in the process. So have we got Ryan Shield? I didn't see him on the screen there. Got him down as responding to item 5, item 6 in connection with minute number JTB 2431. Is any one of the county officers going to speak to this at all?
Chairman, I don't believe so, no.
Right, in that case, let me do that from the chair. Ryan Shield is in the process of producing a detailed design in connection with parking restrictions at Dark Hill Road item. The idea here is that because this is these are HGVs parking on an unlit highway, and I have to say I've seen some recent film of something north of a dozen HGVs parked nose to tail on this road, and all unlit. Because it's a safety issue, we're going to ask KCC to look at drawing a TRO and come back with advice in connection with the work that they undertake in the meantime. So if we're agreeable to making a note of that, and we'll update it at JTB. Next up, then we move to item 7, pages 19 to 38. Report covers the progress to the current phase 15, and I'm now going to ask Andy Edwards, Head of Technical Services, to present and introduce the report.
Thank you, Chair. The report before you covers an update on various parking aspects, including the current phase 15, the holding list, and an update on the progress on the wider parking. It's fair to say that progress in developing these skip parking schemes on a whole has been relatively slow over the last 6 months. This is due to the fact that the whole team has been heavily committed with developing and delivery of the previously agreed parking work linked to our charges. However, in January, we do plan on carrying out a number of consultations, including those for Hadlow, Hildenborough, and the formal consultation for phase 15. Happy to take any questions. Thank you very much, Chair.
There's Councillor Barnes.
Thank you. Have we not just had a load of consultations for parking in Hildenborough that weren't actually actioned?
Yeah, no, I think that's, sorry, through you, Chair. In terms of the consultations that we've just completed, or just trying to get a little bit more detail? Sorry.
Yeah, over the last 18 months in Hildenborough, sorry, dating back to before COVID, there were a series of consultations about parking. The parish council submitted a very, very lengthy response to that and kind of collated a number of different views, and then it all went quiet and nothing happened. So
Yeah, I'm not sure. I've got 3 mics, too many mics. I do apologise. In answer to that, yes, this is the final formal consultation. The previous consultation was an informal consultation, which allowed us to shape and change and alter and amend the proposals. Now, the next round of consultation will be a full and final consultation. There will be no further. It will be a case of what members decide, and what comes out of that consultation either will be implemented or will be dropped, left by the wayside.
No one else to speak to this item? Oh, Councillor Hood.
Just one slight amendment to the report. Since the compilation of the lists within the report, the phase 16 locations and the holding list, which is Annex 2, we've had some additional locations proposed by Councillor Hood to go on there, which includes some revisions within the Burns Crescent and Maysfield Way area, Shakespeare Road, and also some potential changes within the D1 and D2 parking areas to reflect changes associated with the introduction of Sunday charges, and also in the Slade and Zone J. So those will be appended.
I don't see anybody else to speak to this. The recommendations are at paragraph 3.1 on page 19. And can I take it that there's no one else to speak, that these are agreeable to the meeting? Agreed. We now move to item 8. Parking Action Plan, Access Group 9. With one of the aims.
Right, thank you. This is a information report on Access Group 9, which is a subset of the Parking Action Plan. This is for the minor amendments, changes to the traffic regulation order. It allows for those minor amendments to be progressed, hopefully, in a more streamlined process. 3 locations were part of this access group. We carried out formal consultation on the proposals for minor changes, and we only received objections to one of those locations. And that number of objections was very low. It was below the less than 5 requirement that's already been agreed, and it was put to the local members for their recommendation whether to set aside those objections or not. Local members considered the objection, recommended to Councillor Coffin as the cabinet member that he set aside that objection. He's done so, and as an information item, it's now been agreed to implement.
Councillor Hoskins.
Thank you very much. Yes, I'm quite happy with the 2 recommendations in my ward, but I do note that the person who objected to the one in Summerhill stated that there was already a disabled bay that didn't appear to be in use, and I did ask whether that could be checked, and I just wanted to check that it had been checked. Thank you.
It has been checked. We've gone through a process to assess whether the existing disabled parking bay, which is at a different location in the road, whether it would be suitable for the need that is there represented within this report, but also whether it's still required for others within the area that require that facility.
Content with that? Thank you. So that being the case, I have no one else to speak on this. The recommendation is on page 39 at paragraph 3.1 again. Can I take it that the board are content with the recommendation. Thank you. We now move to item number 9. This is the scheme update on the A26 Tunbridge Road Hadlow footway improvements, and I have Stuart Taylor from KCC to speak to this one. Stuart, the floor is yours.
Good evening, Chair and Board. Thank you. In November 2022, KCC received a petition requesting a new cycle route along the A26, which will connect Tunbridge to Hadlow. KCC subsequently presented an information report at the JTB on the 18th of November 2023. Following on from this meeting, it was agreed Kent County Council were to proceed with an internal bid for funding, which was successful as part of a phased construction. During the outline design stage, it was apparent there were numerous engineering and ecological site constraints, meaning delivery of the shared use footway was not viable. The scheme will now proceed as a footway enhancement scheme. We're planning to complete this route in 3 phases. Phase 1 being 3 Elms Lane to Hayward's Farm Shop, which we have funding confirmed for. Phase 2, Hayward's Farm Shop to the existing public right-of-way, funding to be confirmed. And also Phase 3, Blackman's Lane to Hadlow College, again awaiting funding. A 4th phase between public right-of-way footpath number MT145 to Blackman's Lane has also been considered, but is not currently an active option after initial discussions were held with one of the interest parties. Phase 1 will consist of a 3 metre wide footway wherever possible. There is only one section that will remain at the existing width of 1.5 metres wide, which is from the 50-40 mile/hour speed limit terminal, heading north to the bus stop south of Hayward's Farm Shop. Within the report, Section 3 details the proposed works at each point along the route, with the majority of works being the installation of the new 3 metre wide footway. There will also be the installation of new tactile paving and drop curbs, vegetation clearance and siding out, as well as tree removal. Phase 1 will be constructed in 2 parts. Vegetation cutback, siding out and tree removal will be completed in February 2025, and the construction of the new footway will be completed in April 2025. Kent County Council are currently in the process of preparing a funding bid for Phase 2, which will be decided in early 2025. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. I have the following members to speak. Councillor Rhodes, followed by Councillor King, followed by Councillor Hood, followed by Councillor Hudson. Start first with sorry, I picked up Councillor Steptoe and was yes, Councillor Barton as well. Thank you. Right, so we'll start first with Councillor Rhodes, please.
Chairman, thank you. But could we start with members of this board, please, first, because I'm not a member of this board.
Sure, by all means. I just picked whoever put their hand up first. So, you certainly, Councillor King, you're not a member of this board, are you? Okay. So next along is Councillor Hood, and you are.
Thank you very much, Chair. Yeah, I'd just like to thank officers for all their work on this. Obviously, it's we're going to be taking this forward incrementally. We're doing it parcel by parcel, as it were, but it's going to be a massive improvement to actually get a walking route in there that can subsequently be improved going forward. So I'd just like to say thank you very much for all the officers' hard work on this, and to Sally Bullion, who's been involved in this from the start. And obviously, Councillor Chris can't be with us today, but obviously this is something that's massively important to him and residents in Hadlow.
Thank you. So next along is Councillor Hudson.
Thank you, Chairman. The original scheme was for a cycle path along the A26, a cycleway. Because of various issues, it's now been downgraded to a footway. And as such, phase 1 starts from... Sorry, I know. If members could stop muttering and allow members to speak, that would be appreciated. The first phase is from Three Elm Lane to the farm shop is sort of a bit like nowhere to nowhere. And it's unfortunate that we can't do everything in one swoop. But equally, phase 2 to phase 3, there is a gap now because the fourth phase, which is the bit in between the two, which is MT145 to Blackman's Lane, cannot be done. So even if all 3 phases which are on the table can be completed, if funding were to be required, there would actually be a gap between phases 2 and 3 because there is no option because the landowners aren't interested in pursuing any scheme with us. The first phase, which, as I said, has got funding, that funding is £100,000. And I think that money, and Councillor Crisp agreed with me at last month's Hadlow Parish Council meeting, that it could be spent in a better way and not on this scheme. So although disappointing, I do think that there are better things that can be done to encourage active travel than spending £100,000 on the road to nowhere. Thank you.
Very much. So next along is Councillor Barton. Now I know you're not a member of the board, but you are substituting for someone who is. So on that basis, you take precedence.
Thank you. I'm actually going to read out a statement from Steve Crisp. So obviously I wasn't at the Hadlow Parish Council meeting, so I can't speak to what happened there. But the message from Steve is, number one, thanks to Stuart and his team for all the work done to date on this project. Excellent that the final stages of phase 1 are being designed and with luck will be constructed early next year. However, phase 2, I believe, is the most important part of the route to be funded and finalised, as this section is by far the most dangerous. I know because I regularly bike it. I'm fearful at some point there will be a severe accident if a safe alternative route is not provided soon for pedestrians and cyclists. I've said this many times. Most of phase 2 is already there in the form of the old A26 road, which is hidden behind a hedge. And the only thing that makes it impassable is a large pile of tarmac left behind by the A26 construction team many years ago. If this was removed, the path would be accessible to the public. Phase 3, from Faulkner's Oast to Blackman's Lane, goes across fields owned by Hadlow College, who have refused to support the scheme due to possible livestock interference and fly tipping. At the moment, sheep are controlled by a portable electric fence that would not allow them to impede a new pathway. Plus, the land is already open from the Blackman's Lane side, so a more permanent path, in my opinion, would not encourage fly tippers, especially if gated. I would suggest the second existing footpath that goes from Faulkner's Oast to Blackman's Lane in a straight line, and is already a farm track, would be preferable to the existing proposal. I pointed this out in a diagram I gave to Ryan Shields months ago. Please take another look at this, as it might be an answer to the problem. Bartholomew Wren pointed out that it would be better if the whole route from Hadlow to Tunbridge was designed at the same time, but with Hadlow having no butcher or greengrocer at the Hayward's farm shop is an essential amenity for Hadlow people and beyond, especially as they sell top quality local meat and vegetables. That adds to a more healthy lifestyle, which the previous and new governments are keen to support, etc. At the moment, Hadlow residents are forced to use their cars, adding to the ongoing congestion problems, so a new safe path will be extremely beneficial as a first stage of the whole route. Many local residents, including students, families, school children and businesses, have said they would use a safe path if constructed. I sincerely hope that phase 2 at least will get funding as a matter of urgency, and with the political will we can help so many people. Thank you. So from my perspective, it seems that Steve's pretty much in favour of certainly phase 1 and 2 of this path.
Thank you very much. Now I move to Councillor Rhodes to speak next.
And thank you. I am not a member of JTB. I'm not here subbing. Thank you for your indulgence. I do live, though, within the ward of part of this new path. And unfortunately, I am appalled, I'm annoyed, I'm agitated, I'm aggrieved, I'm angry. And I refer to the piece of grass, area of grass in front of the now Esso petrol station. And I'm aggrieved that they are going to remove trees and remove some vegetation just for a footpath that goes from nowhere to nowhere. I'm even more annoyed that, and he's not here tonight, unfortunately, but Councillor Crisp has been driving this. So for a Green councillor to push for something that is going to remove trees and vegetation, and no doubt that vegetation is full of birds during the nesting season because it's a big mass. It's whether we can get this path redacted, because there's a perfectly good slip road that people can walk along. That's how I feel about this. Thank you very much, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Rhodes. Next up is King.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm not a member of your board, so thank you for allowing me to speak. In my effort to be reasonable, I'm going to agree in part with everyone. Phase 1 and much of phase 2 is in my ward. So, and also I do walk regularly to what is now the SO garage. So familiar with that. I do quite often walk to the farm shop. And I have been working with the lady who really initiated the petition, who lives in Framley Way near me. And I've generally talked to her on a regular basis and supported it. In my view, there are a couple of things. I concur that it's been done in the wrong order, because I can quite adequately use footpaths that they exist now to walk to the farm shop. Yes, they do need cleaning up, if not widening. The one from the Shell garage, the SO garage to the farm shop is quite overgrown at times, so it's mainly the trees which is the barrier to passage. I totally concur with what Councillor Rhodes says. There's perfectly adequate slip road which people walk along on a regular basis, so I don't see any need to cut into the grass verge and to uproot trees or to interfere with the habitat on there. So to my mind, and this is where I came into the discussion with the lady in my ward, that I do also walk into Hadlow on occasion, but you are taking your life in your hands on the grass verge on the opposite side of the road, and it's not very pleasant. So for pedestrians and cyclists, it's not very pleasant. So the most necessary section is the section that goes past the farm shop up to Blackman's Lane. And yes, there is a short section there which does need to be sorted, and I think sorted early, but there is a pavement on the opposite side which people can cross over to. So I think the right order is in phase 2, 3 and then 1. I think 1 is more a tidying up section, but I think it's a complete waste of money to put in a pathway past the SO garage. So I do support this, and I have talked to the lady that initiated the petition, and I have had words with her. I can't put words in her mouth, but she understands and doesn't disagree greatly with what I've just said. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor King. I don't have anyone else to. So, Councillor, just before I come, I just want to check something with you. Are you seeking any changes to the recommendations at all? And if so, do you have anybody putting that forward?
I'm not in a position to do that, I don't believe,
You're
but I offer up to the members the opportunity to take up what I've said, which is to do with the phasing and the removal of that footpath past the SO garage.
It was to understand your position. Thank you.
Thank you.
So next along, Councillor Steptoe.
Thank you, Chairman. So I'd like to thank Ryan Shields and his team and Sally Bullion for all the work that's been done so far. So we know that phase 1's got funding, but I'd like to know what the position is with the fundings for phases 2 and 3, when they're going to apply for it and to whom they might apply.
So questions therefore put that do we have any news on phases 2 and 3 and when they might be available?
Chair, is that something I can answer for you now?
Yes, you go ahead, please.
Yeah, so we're currently in the process. I'm putting together a presentation to apply for an internal funding bid via our local transport plan for phase 2. And we should hopefully find out early next year if that is accepted or not.
Thank you for that. Are you content with that, Councillor Steptoe?
Yes, so thank you.
Next up, I have Councillor Coffin, please.
Thank you very much. First of all, I should point out this is for information only, this report, so there is no decision making to be made on this report, although I'm sure the officers are listening to what's being said and digesting what is being said as we go through it. There's a couple of things that I had previously asked about this, and that is on phase 2, the large lump of tarmac, which apparently is impeding some of the movement forward. I'm presuming that it belongs to Kent County Council, so I sort of am a little bit of a loss as to know why it can't be moved quite quickly, and I'm sure it could be recycled elsewhere. I've also know that there's been questions about the support or otherwise from Hadlow Parish Council, and I'm not sure if there's been formal consultation with Hadlow Parish Council at this stage, because I'm sure if they were 100% behind this, yet more funding might be available or more gates might be open, but I'm not sure what their position is. I think that's all I wanted to say at this stage. I do tend to agree that it does seem a little bit in the wrong order, but to eventually get there is better than no order at all. Thank you.
Yes, I understand the point you make about it being an information item, but the situation is that it's really a question from my point of view of taking the temperature of the meeting. Is this something that we want to put forward? You made suggestions there in connection with the large pile of asphalt. Do you want to bring that to the attention of the officers, and do you want it moved? Is that your intent?
I think given that it's been aired at a public meeting, they probably will understand. Thank you.
Fine. So next up, I have Councillor Hood.
Thank you very much, Chair. Yeah, with regard to, I'm sure that Stuart will come back if I'm wrong. With regard to the big pile of asphalt, I believe that can't be removed before a certain time, because there's two elements to it. I think part of it is something to do with fly tipping, and the other part is all the time that route isn't properly made up. It doesn't exist properly. We can't encourage people to use the entire route. I think I'm right in thinking that. Someone from Hadlow Parish Council attended our last meeting of the member officer group relating to this, and they've got a long-standing ambition to have a permanent footpath between Tunbridge and Hadlow. So at present, this is a pedestrian only route. So they do support the ambition to connect Tunbridge with Tunbridge Wells. Going back to the comments made earlier about removing trees, we have asked about the feasibility of having a route alongside the garage there that doesn't remove any grass, and we were told that that's unfeasible. I think the report makes clear that any trees that are being removed will be replaced. It won't be a loss of tree cover in the long run. And of course, we're going to be putting something in place which is going to encourage active travel. So it's going to be much better for the environment, because people aren't going to have to get in their cars every time they have to get to the farm shop or eventually to get to Hadlow. Yes, it's problematic, not problematic, it's frustrating that this is having to be done in stages, and perhaps the stages aren't as logical as people would like, but we've got the funding for this first stage, and that's the important thing, is we can get this underway. We've got an allocation of money for this. And so this is where we are. So I'm hoping that members will support this, because it's got to be a good thing, as Councillor Crisp has said in his roundup, that we allow people to have the opportunity to walk rather than get in their cars.
Thank you very much. Next up, Councillor.
The thing that I keep coming back to is the fact that the petition was for a cycleway, and we cannot put in a cycleway. There is insufficient road width and facilities in order to do so. The petition itself was cited as having many signatories from former students at Hadlow College, and I find it rather ironic that it's actually Hadlow College itself who's refusing to allow its land to be utilised for a footpath that all their former students are insisting upon. So I just wanted to bring those two things, because what we're talking about now is something totally at odds with what was originally requested, which was a cycle path between A and B. And what we're having is a footpath truncated at various points along its journey, which is something completely different. So do we actually have a petition for what is now on the paper, on the agenda, as a scheme, or are we simply trying to create something just to appease everyone? And as I said before, £100,000 from nowhere to nowhere is not the greatest use of funds. Thank you.
So, Mr. Taylor, do you want to address any of that at all?
Thank you for your comments. I'll take them all on board and I'll relay these back to see where we go from here in terms of if anything needs to be changed regarding the phasing. I do just want to note as well, I know the concern is regarding the sort of the gap where the public right of way is. So even if we do upgrade the footpaths either side of this public right of way, pedestrians can still use it, so there will be a full route still. I appreciate maybe winter times, winter months, it might not be as accessible due to what's on the ground currently, but there is going to be a full complete route even without the public right of way being changed or upgraded to as we would like. And yeah, as explained before, trees will be replaced any that are removed, and that's all I have to comment on at the moment.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So next I have Councillor Cope.
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to start off by saying that actually Sally Bullion is making an appeal at the moment to the Department of Transport to force North Kent College to the colleges to give consent. So that is not, the situation is fluid at the moment. That's not decided forever that they are not going to do that. I also want to say that I don't think having a footpath rather than the petition cycle path is, as I said, totally at odds with what is being done at the moment, because the spirit of it was to find an active travel solution between two places that would make car journeys less frequent. I think I've heard the catchy soundbite, the nowhere to nowhere road, but actually this is being done in incremental stages. So at the moment, yes, it's not ideal, but we can't let perfect be the enemy of good. It's not exactly what was wanted, but it is, oh, bless you. It is a route for active travel. It will cut down on car use, and it will connect Tunbridge and Hadlow, which I don't think is nowhere to nowhere. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Next along, I have Councillor King.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm still not a member of your board. I'd just like to reiterate that slip road is the least dangerous to cyclists, but for pedestrians, I walk it on a regular basis and I don't think it's hazardous at all. So I'll just reiterate the fact that I can't see the logic of that pathway at all. And whether we have the money or whether we don't is not necessarily an argument for doing something that doesn't make sense, in my opinion. Thank you.
So I don't have any further members to speak. This is an information item only. The officer on this has noted, I'm sure, your comments and remarks, and let's hope that when we get the next report back, it properly reflects those comments. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair.
I'm now just before I move to agenda item 10. I just want to check that Jamie Watson is actually present online. If he is, would you like to speak? I'm aware that you're either at or on the way from a meeting in North Kent. So thank you for showing up on camera.
Yes, I'm here, Chairman. Thank you.
Great, that's fine. I agreed I would just make sure you were present before we embarked on this. So agenda item 10. Could I ask you please to introduce and give the background to Kent Street Junction Improvement Up?
Certainly, thank you, Chair. This is an information item. It's been brought to the board previously several times, but last in September 23. And it's just an update on the signalised junction of Kent Street, which has had visibility and has visibility issues. and it's also widening the A228 between Kent Street and Beach Road. Over the last 12 months, we've been working on detailed designs and working with the landowner to get agreement, because there's additional land required for the traffic signals and the road widening, and we're about to complete on that. So we're now on the last stages of getting everything ready for construction. The first elements that we're wanting to do is to remove the substantial hedges to the north and south of Kent Street, and this needs certain certain authority approvals for the removal, which we're still working on with TNBC officers and the landowner and tenant farmer. So we should be in a position mid-February to make a start by removing the hedges. We will then more than likely need to move away from site and then come back in the better months, because of the need to go into the better weather for construction, civil engineering wise. The finances, we've got Section 106 developer funding for by far the majority of this scheme, and we're successful in getting some additional funding from the Kent Lane Rental Innovation Fund that's managed by KCC and Highway Utilities. We've still got to just complete the land agreements, but that will be done in time for a February start, confident of that. And that's probably the latest update I've got for you, Chair and Board. Thank you.
Mr. Watson, thank you very much indeed. The speaker I have first is Matt Bolton, please. Matt Bolton online. Thank you.
Chair, thank you very much. I'm a bit under the weather, so I hope you don't mind me dialing in. As mentioned the last time the scheme was here, it is long overdue, and Sarah and I, as local ward members, have spoken to many people in Merryworth who are concerned with this and are very keen that it happens. Obviously, Section 106 has been collected over many years, and that needs to be spent, and we welcome the additional 300,000 from the Kent Lane Rental Fund. Having said all of that, I was surprised to see this on the agenda tonight. Sarah and I, with Merryworth Parish Council and affected residents, have been asking for quite some time for further information relating to some of the details of this scheme. We seem to have hit a brick wall, and then all of a sudden this appears on the agenda this evening. So personally, given that the scheme update is all of 5 paragraphs, I'm not sure this is great use of the JTB's time tonight. However, given it's on the agenda, it has given us the information that we had been asking for so long, for which we're very grateful. Now, we could redo the designs all over again. There were some elements that residents objected to, but frankly, we're at the stage now where we need to crack on with this. And while there's elements we'd have done differently, the scheme in itself does address the majority of the issues raised. But there are 2 key issues that I do think members across the borough need to be wary of. The first is the expectation of this scheme has increased in the local community, because during the consultation in 2023, which is referred to in the papers, residents were told this was happening in 2024. It's now happening in 2025, so it's already seen in the community to be late. And the second, and this is absolutely critical, is that after the works are complete, most people won't notice a change. You'll still be able to drive from Kings Hill towards the roundabout on the A26 towards Waterbury as normal, and just as you have at the moment. The biggest impact is for residents on both sides of Kent Street. But we know when there's disruption or temporary traffic lights at Kent Street that the impact on the wider transport network in the Malling area is significant. We've seen that today. We saw it particularly in half-term week too. And the fundamental issue we've got here with this scheme is going to be during the traffic management phase, because there is no obvious diversion route. Obviously, you can't go south through Kings Hill, so the diversion route to the east involves going via West Malling, East Malling, down Waterbury Road into Waterbury using the Waterbury Crossroads, and then to the west, we've got to get all the way over to 7 Mile Lane and then go down from Offham or Addington towards the roundabout with the A26. Consequently, drivers, particularly with some without local knowledge, try and use Beach Road and Butchers Lane instead. Now, what we've seen is Beach Road is a classic example of this, is that it's a single track lane with no passing places whatsoever. It is physically impossible for cars, regardless of their width, to pass on this road. And yet this diversion is potentially going to be used by hundreds of cars a day. Even if the signals diversion is elsewhere, we know that sat-navs will either route people down Beach Road, or people will simply look at a map and see that a road does exist. Butchers Lane isn't much wider in parts and is much more residential too. So in order to stop absolute carnage across the whole of the Malling area during the construction phase, it is absolutely essential that Beach Road east of Butchers Lane is closed. Otherwise, we will end up in a situation that many residents in Merryworth face far too often of simply being unable to get in or out of their village. In addition, what we need to happen is for further closures and traffic management to happen in the village of Merryworth that would prevent the street being used as a diversion. So this would need to be closed at the A228 N2, and the same at Willow Wenson. These would have to be immovable barriers that are installed. Because after 15 years of collecting contributions through Section 106 for this scheme, and given the fact that at the end of the scheme, you'll still be able to travel up and down the A228 as you do at the moment, it's going to be the traffic management that will determine whether this scheme is a success or not. And unfortunately, at the moment, I've got no confidence as one of the local members in the KCC highways officers to deliver this successfully. And I'll perhaps explain why. So on the week of the 28th of October, which was half-term week, there were planned works that took place at the Kent Street Junction. Yet Kent County Council failed to notify anyone living there, or ask the contractor to do it, or Sarah Hudson, as a local county member, wasn't notified, or the parish council. We subsequently raised this with highways officers, and on the 7th of November, I was assured by the interim senior highway manager West that an investigation would conclude the week after, detailing why there'd been such miscommunication, because we made the point that if you can't get this sorted for planned works in a half-term period, then you can't expect residents to be able to tolerate the level of disruption that's coming next year. Now, that was the 7th of November. Since then, I've chased, Sarah has chased as local county member, even the KCC cabinet member for highways has chased, and yet KCC highways officers still refuse to share with us the outcome of the investigation, if it has even finished. We simply don't know. So consequently, all of our concerns about Beach Road that I've just identified and why that road, it is absolutely essential, is closed, needs to be dealt with as part of this scheme. And I see Sarah Parris is on the call, and I'm very grateful that she has offered to meet with us before Christmas. But we need to make sure that expectations are in the right place on this. And as I've said to Sarah before, simply going away, as KCC highways officers have indicated to us, and talking to the contractor about this, and then saying this is what we'll do, is not the way in which this closure, necessary closure, will be best managed. Because there is a culture that some people articulate within Kent Highways of not listening to what affected neighbours think of their schemes. And the only way that we move away from this culture is by co-designing traffic management plans with the community and their representatives in advance of works taking place. If these are developed with contractors in secrecy and then even not shared or simply presented as a fait accompli, and there are such fundamental issues, such as the wider impact on the village of Merryworth, then we can't expect the works to proceed without the level of disruption that we would want to avoid. And all I can do is to encourage, and I am using this meeting to try and encourage KCC highways officers to co-design the traffic management arrangements with us. But if we've got a situation where they're still ignoring their own cabinet member too, then we've got a real problem in KCC highways. So can I potentially ask, just as a final point, Chairman, given that I expect this will be the last time that the JTB will see the scheme, that members in the chamber tonight consider asking or recommending to the cabinet member at KCC that Beach Road should be closed east of Butchers Lane for the duration of any road closure or traffic management on the A228 between the Airfield Estate and the A26 roundabout towards Waterbury, which would at the very least help overcome some of the significant concerns that residents in Merryworth Village have about the traffic management that will happen, or the impact of the traffic management while the scheme is under construction. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Bolton. I just make the point here that this is also an item for report and information only. And as Councillor Coffin pointed out to me previously, he is uncomfortable with recommendations or proposals coming forward on information items. I only mention it in order to be fair across the piece with all concerned. Next up, I have Councillor Hudson, please.
Basically everything that Councillor Bolton has said, but in addition as well, we have a situation where Kent Highway signs simply say road ahead closed. And something that I have been pushing for the last 4 years since I was elected is to have a little bit more information on said road ahead closed signs, because we don't know where the road ahead closed is actually going to turn out. And 9 times out of 10, it's not actually where you think it was going to be. It's actually a side road that you approach a couple of miles later. So the whole system needs a complete overhaul, and it's something that I've been working with KCC colleagues and the Cabinet Member for Highways and the Deputy Cabinet Member David Roby to try and address this situation. We also have the situation, which is today, tomorrow and Wednesday, is that these BT open reach works that are taking place just along the A228 this evening are classified as emergency works, and therefore they just rocked up this morning, started digging a hole and didn't actually have to tell anyone about it until later on this afternoon. And in actual fact, the official notification for these roadworks has still not actually been issued. And that won't happen until at least tomorrow. We have a burst water main up by the roundabout by Gibson Building. That is actually going to 3-way traffic lights tomorrow and will cause even more carnage, I'm afraid. And then we have some drainage issues on the A26 not far from Merryworth roundabout. So actually to come here, which is 1.5 miles from home to door, I've gone through 3 sets of temporary traffic lights, and it's completely unacceptable. And the sooner that we get some legislation in place that utilities cannot just turn up, do what the hell they like, claim it's an emergency, and the only way that we can ascertain whether it is or not is an FOI or even a judicial review of what they're doing. And it's a farce. Thank you.
Yeah, I have every sympathy with you and the points made by Councillor Bolton as well. But in terms of contractors for utilities or utility companies putting in road closures, as you quite rightly say, they can close a road on the basis of an emergency, and they don't have to tell anybody for at least 2 hours, and often it's a lot longer. I've made precisely the same point at Environment and Transport Committee at KCC, with even regarding standing traffic on the M26 as a result of poor traffic management in the Rootham Heath area. However, I wish you well in your endeavours, and certainly have my support should you decide to take the matter up with Highways and with Neil Baker, and indeed with Mr. Roby. So next up, I have Councillor Hood, please.
Thank you very much, Chair. At the last meeting of the Environment and Transport Committee, the subject of road closures and the unspecified nature of where the closure was brought up. as you will know, at the last full council meeting of the county council, I also brought that question up as well. So I know that the cabinet member and the deputy cabinet member and the officers are looking into how they can add some additional information there. Constitutionally, I'd like to ask a question. I don't really follow why this board would be receiving items for noting only. We're not here just to receive reports to note without comment. So we should be able to feed back to both councils. So yeah. So the idea
you asked people to stop talking, Councillor Hudson, whilst you were speaking, and you're now doing the same. So I don't care. Frankly, the same thing applies. If you ask others to be courteous to you, it's good to use the same degree of courtesy in return. So, Councillor Hood, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. So my question is, constitutionally, when we have an item that's come for noting, are we only allowed to note it, or are we allowed to make comments on that? Because when this happens at another council, we are allowed to make comments which feed their way back. Thank you.
My response was, as you have heard in number 9, inviting those, even if they were not members, recognising they were not members of the board, to see whether they had made any arrangements or convinced any others who wished to raise a point. So I was happy to take that. But to be fair, in the circumstances, one can hardly turn around and say that number 9 was an information item only, and we're not going to take anything on that. But for number 10, we are. So just for the purposes of consistency, at least for this evening, personally, I have no problem with recommendations going back to the county member for highways with recommendations from the Joint Transport Board. Never have done, as far as I'm concerned, I never will. But this evening, I feel for consistency purposes, and only now, as far as I'm concerned, we can review the position going forward. And I certainly have no issues with taking the type of response that Councillor Bolton and you've made consistently in the past about this sort of thing going back in the form of recommendation. So, Councillor Coffin.
Forgive me, hopefully I can see a way forward through this. You very kindly asked me in item 9, did I want to make a recommendation? And I actually said I would prefer not to, because I didn't feel it was important enough to make a recommendation, given that the officer was listening carefully to what was being said. So as I say, you were kind enough to let me answer that question on your behalf, and I chose not to put forward a recommendation. I feel that this may have a slightly nuanced difference, and I suspect that there might be perhaps a stronger feeling on number 10 to put forward a recommendation about the closure of that particular road. Thank you, Chairman.
Well, an item for information is an item for information. Emotions don't come into it, as far as I'm concerned. Either we're putting recommendations up, and I was happy to do that on number 9. But once you've made the point, then I'm happy to take the point as far as it goes. Next up, I've got Councillor Bolton.
Just on the constitutional point, I think part of the problem that this committee has got, if I can perhaps speak in my role as leader of Tunbridge and Morling Council and not as a ward member, is that items generally are written by officers either from KCC Highways or from technical services at Tunbridge and Morling Council. Now, obviously, because this board is clerked by the Borough Council, there is a much easier flow of information between democratic services and between technical services as to the future workload of the committee and what the recommendations are going to be, because obviously they have to then go to either the cabinet or the cabinet member at Tunbridge and Morling Council. The biggest problem that we have with the Joint Transportation Board is the lack of forward planning from Kent Highways as to what items are going to appear on what agenda and when. And often I know that committee services simply get sent something that says, here's something for a JTB agenda that's due to be published in 2 days' time. It would be really helpful for the county councillors in the room to speak to whoever is the appropriate person at the county council to try and get some sort of future work programme established for the JTB. Again, just because this happens to be in my wards, this particular scheme, I was very surprised when I saw this on the work programme for this JTB, because I frankly didn't see the need for this committee to be updated. And in fact, all it's managed to do is give information that Sarah and I as ward members had been asking for some weeks. But the report itself is very short in terms of a general update. One could argue that could have simply been an email out, and we didn't need to have it at this meeting tonight. But all of this is resolved if Kent Highways start planning with Tunbridge and Morning Council the agendas of JTBs better. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Councillor Bolton. I haven't got any. Councillor Thornywell next.
I'm prepared to raise constitutional issues tomorrow night, and for Area 2, I didn't expect to be raising them tonight. Seems to me that if you have a report asking us to note something, we can refuse to note it. Otherwise, there's no point in us being asked to note it. But I think, given what people are saying, that we should go along with what Matt Borton is saying and ask the County Council to close Butchers Lane as well. And there aren't any officers here for me to ask from a legal point of view what's been said, whether it's correct or not. But it seems to me you can't have a situation where, in this case, officers of the County Council dictate as to how members conduct the meeting.
Well, at the end of the day, this board has the maximum amount of power it has is to make recommendations to the cabinet member for hire. Now, I personally do not have a problem with if that is the wish of the board to actually ask the clerk to put it exactly in those terms.
I propose that we support Matt Walton's request that Butchers Lane be closed during the duration of these works. I hope that's what.
I think he was actually after Beach and
it's Beach Road and Willow Wents.
Those were the two that I recall him. Okay. Do we have a second? Are you a member of the board?
I have been for a very, very long time.
I'm pleased to hear it, but it's worth checking. So those in favour? Oh, no. Those against? Fine, that's carried. So next along, we have the agenda item 11, and item 11 is Highways Forward Works Programme, which is Andy. So Andy, you want to? You already circulated items on this and invited people to put any questions forward. Have you got any pre questions that members have put to you that you can address now, please? Over to you.
Thank you, Chair. No, not to hand. I haven't received anything in advance of this meeting, so happy to take some questions, note them, and then get back to the respective councillors and board members. Thank you.
In that case, unless members have got any, sorry, Councillor Thornwell.
I was just going to welcome something which was on Appendix B, the drainage. There's an ongoing problem of flooding on the A20.
Can I suggest before we go there?
Yeah.
Do you want to go as we've done traditionally from time immemorial? Start with page 91. Yeah, okay. And I'll work my way through slowly so that those of us of older disposition can respond. So starting with page 91. 92. 93. Page 94.
Is that me? Because these pages I've printed it off, and of course you lose the page.
No, you come in Appendix B with you, and you're on page 95. So we're there now, unless there's any takers for 90. Okay, so 95, Appendix B, drainage.
As I said, that this is a been going on for several years, and I'm really pleased to see that here. And I hope we can get on and resolve this. All I wanted to say. Thank you.
This is Priory Grove at Ditton, I take it, is it? Okay, thank you very much. Anybody else on page 95, moving to 96? 7. Moving to Appendix C on 98. Page 99. Page 100. Appendix D on page 101. Page 102. Page 103. Page 104. Page 105. Page 106. Nothing to Appendix F on page 107. Page 108. Page 109. Page 110. Page 111. Page 112. 113 is blank, and so is page. So agenda item 13 now. I don't have any. So turning to 12. Any matters to be raised? Certainly nothing's been raised with me in advance, so I don't have any items under item 12. Same with item 13. I don't have any urgent items, and I don't have anything put to me as a part 2 item, and therefore I close the meeting. And I've got the time now at 20:40. Close the meeting at 20:40. Thank you very much.